Hi book lovers, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about my top favorite reads of 2023. These are the 20 best romances that I read last year. It was so hard to narrow mine down because I originally started with a list of 30, but that's a bit too much. So after some deliberation, here are the best romance books that I read in 2023. These aren't going to be in any particular order except for my top 3. These are my standouts of the year, and yes, I am going to cheat because a few of these are complete series. I'm gonna count series as 1 out of the 20, alright? So in my top 3 of 2023, this is the Mindfuck series by St. Abby. I finally read the series last year after hearing all the hype for it. Like, everyone I knew loved this series, and I truly did not know what I was in for when I started it, but it blew me away. It's such an unforgettable story, and the characters are incredible. Like Lana, the heroine, she is my girl crush. She is one of the best heroines that I read last year. She is one of the best heroines that I've read, period. She went through so much trauma, but she came out of it so strong. She is now a serial killer who is hunting down men for revenge. So it's very much a dark romance series. It gets dark and gritty and very, very violent. I was hooked as soon as I read it, and the romance is incredible too. It's so juicy and dramatic because the hero, he is the FBI agent who is trying to track down the serial killer, and he has no idea that the woman that he has started dating, that he's falling for, is that serial killer. It's such a twisted story. There's so much action, there's so much going on, but I could not put it down. It's truly an unforgettable, mind-blowing read, and I'm so glad that I finally read it. It absolutely lives up to all the hype that it has, and I mean, it's one of my favorite reads that I read last year. And then I have another series that I read last year in my top 3 of 2023. This is the Windy City series by Liz Tomford. Specifically, it's books 2 and 3, so The Right Move and Caught Up. So yes, this is another one that I'm cheating on and including 2 books for 1 spot, but you know what? I don't care. I'm including both because I love them so much. It's a sports romance series. The Right Move is a basketball romance, and then Caught Up is a baseball romance. The Right Move is this incredible opposites attract, roommates, fake dating romance. It was fake dating heaven. Indy, the heroine, is such an incredible character. She's also another favorite heroine of mine. She recently got cheated on, so now she needs a place to live, and her best friend tells her that she should live with that best friend's brother. Ryan is this famous basketball player. He is one of the top names in the NBA, and he doesn't want a roommate, but he very reluctantly lets Indy live with him, and she brings so much chaos, so much good chaos into his life. Indy is just pure joy and light and happiness, and I love the way these two were together. They couldn't be more different, but they're so perfect for each other. And then the whole fake dating thing is so freaking cute. Ryan needs a fake girlfriend to impress his general manager, so he ropes Indy into becoming his fake girlfriend, and they are just the sweetest things. The way they fall for each other is beautiful. I love to see Ryan growing a little bit jealous and possessive over Indy. It was just so romantic, and I was swooning like crazy over the romance. Their banter is excellent too. Like, Liz Tomford is so good at writing banter, at writing dialogue. I'm always so impressed with the way she's able to make her characters come to life. And then for Caught Up, book 3, this is also incredible. It's a single dad baseball romance and a falling for the nanny romance. The hero, he is this single dad. He had no idea that he had a son until that son shows up out of the blue at 6 months old. So Kai does everything he can to take care of Max, and their father-son relationship is the cutest thing. So that whole part, that relationship was wonderful, but then add in the heroine, who is also Kai's coach's daughter. Miller becomes Max's nanny, and she builds such a wonderful relationship with not just Max but also Kai. The banter here was also chef's kiss. Like, these two are so funny and cute together. Miller especially, she has such a foul, unfiltered mouth, and I loved her for it. I also love the fact that she is a pastry chef, like a professional pastry chef. I thought her job was so cool. But the romance here is just so heartwarming. It's so sweet. It had me all in my feels. Kai is such a wonderful guy. He's an incredible father, and he puts his whole heart into anything that he does, like baseball, his son, and now Miller. It's a beautiful book, and Liz Tomford really did such a wonderful job with her releases last year. And then the last of my top 3 is Liars Like Us by J.T. Geisinger. This is another dark romance, although it's not like too dark, it just has some dark elements, like a psychotic hero, but I love a good psychotic hero. I am a sucker for an obsessed possessive hero, so Liars Like Us worked perfectly well for me. It's the first book in a brand new series about 3 brothers, and this first brother, Callum, oh my god, I loved him so much. It's actually kind of hilarious, like the whole story, because basically the heroine, she is losing everything. The indie bookstore that Emery works at is going under. There's a new chain bookstore that's opening right across the street that's taking all of her customers. Emery's apartment is condemned, like she is on the end of her rope. And then all of a sudden, up comes Callum out of nowhere. He's this powerful CEO billionaire, and he offers Emery $20 million to marry him. As a reader, you can pretty much figure out like what's going on. Emery has no idea about it, but you can guess like why she's going through what she is and what Callum has to do with it. But it was just so much fun. Like, it's such an entertaining read. We have a questionable, morally gray, insanely obsessed, filthy rich hero who will do anything, and I mean anything, to have the heroine. And I'm always gonna be a sucker for that kind of hero. Their romance is full of good banter. I mean, if you can tell, I do love banter, and it's so hot too. Like, the steam here, it's on fire. I just love the way that he was so unhinged and so unashamed of his obsession with Emery. It's over the top and honestly ridiculous, but it was so good. One of my favorites. The rest of my top 20 are in no particular order. First up is Bewitched by Laura Thalassa. I am a Laura Thalassa fangirl, so my excitement for this book, for this new series, was up there, and she totally lived up to all of my expectations. Like, this is the first book in the new Bewitched series. It's this witchy paranormal romance series, and it was so addicting to read. We have a heroine who is a witch, and she's trying to join a coven. Celine finally gets accepted into one, but she has to do 2 things. She has to find herself a familiar and also go on a great quest. She does find herself a familiar, and it's in a panther, which is just so cool. And when she goes on her great quest, she accidentally awakens this powerful, evil, ancient being, Memnon, who is the hero. He's this ancient king who is cursed to sleep for thousands of years, and now that he's awake, he thinks that Celine is his long-lost wife, his long-lost queen. He still loves her, but he also wants revenge against her because that queen was the one who put him to sleep. So it is a slightly dark romance just because Memnon is pretty much evil. He's not a good guy, but I couldn't help myself but love his obsession with Celine. It is slow burn though, like obviously Memnon is evil and Celine doesn't just instantly fall in love with him. But I love these two. I love Celine especially. Like, she is such a funny and sassy, sarcastic type of heroine. If you love Laura Thalassa, if you love paranormal romances or fantasy romances, you definitely need to read Bewitched. And then another favorite of the year is Elle Hazelwood, and I loved both of her 2023 releases. So first is Love Theoretically. This is one of her new STEM romances, STEM adult contemporary romances, and it was so freaking good. I have loved Elle since The Love Hypothesis. I love this brand that she's built for herself. But yeah, I loved Love Theoretically. I loved Elsie, I loved Jack, and their whole enemies to lovers romance. Yet again, we have some A-tier banter going on here. Basically, these two are rival physicists. Elsie is a theoretical physicist and Jack is an experimental physicist. Every time they're in the same room, it's like sparks are flying crying. And the funny thing is that Elsie has a side job of being a fake date for hire, and Jack's brother is the one who hires her to be his fake girlfriend. So now Jack thinks that her brother is dating him, and Jack is like falling for her, and he's all tortured about it, which was super fun to read. But I personally love Jack so much because he is Elle Hazelwood's most confident and forward hero. He's a hero who speaks his mind and goes after what he wants, and once he realizes that Elsie is what he wants and that she is not actually with his brother, he goes after her hard. They are so cute together. I just love their chemistry so much. It's a new favorite Elle Hazelwood book for me. And since I will read anything and everything that Elle Hazelwood writes, I even read her debut YA book, her very first young adult romance, which is Check and Mate, and I loved it so much. So I absolutely have to also include this one in my top 20. If you know me, you know I don't really read young adult books anymore. I've just kind of moved away from that whole genre, but as soon as Elle Hazelwood announced that she was writing Check and Mate, I was like, okay, fine, I will read this. And I am so glad that I did because I adored it so much. It's a YA romance, but it does have more like a new adult feel to it. Like the characters are 18 and older. And what's interesting about this is that it's all about chess. The heroine gets invited to join this whole chess tournament, mostly because she needs the money to support her family. And the hero is actually the world chess champion. He's the #1 chess player in the world, but on their first meeting when Mallory and Nolan play chess, she beats him. So ever since then, Nolan has never forgotten Mallory. And now that Mallory has joined this whole chess tour, she and Nolan are in some close proximity all the time. They're traveling all over the world together, and I love the way they grow close because of this. Like Mallory teaches Nolan how to fall back in love with chess again, and Nolan is just so good to Mallory. Like she is going through a lot with her home life, but he is like the one good thing that she has. I love the story here though. I loved all the chess parts. I loved Mallory's family. Like her siblings are so funny. There's a lot of meaningful moments between Mallory and her family, and it was such a wonderful read. Honestly, I'm not that surprised that I love this one because it is Elle Hazelwood, and I'm a sucker for her romances and her pining heroes because Nolan pines so hard for Mallory. I'm just impressed that I read a young adult book, but if you're like me and you don't really read YA anymore, but you do love Elle, I would still highly recommend that you pick this one up. Another one of my absolute favorites of 2023 is Caution to the Wind by Giana Darling. This is the much awaited 7th book in the Fallen Men series. I kind of read the series out of order, but even reading Caution to the Wind kind of as a standalone, it held up so good. And it was just so easy to fall back into a Giana Darling world. So this is a motorcycle club romance. It's MC, it's bikers, and we have a very juicy age gap forbidden romance here. The heroine falls for her childhood best friend's stepdad. It's such a wild, dramatic, and dark story, but I was hooked right from the very beginning. The heroine, May, she is best friends with Chloe, and she has this incredible bond, not just with Chloe, but also with her stepdad, Henning. Her love for Henning grows into this very adult type of love as she grows up, but then something tragic happens to them all. Chloe's mother is murdered right in front of May. Henning was sent to prison, Chloe was sent away, and May is now trying to get revenge for Chloe's mother. Fast forward years later, May and Chloe are all grown up, and Henning is now part of the Fallen Men MC, and this is when things get so angsty and very, very hot. There's such a raw and powerful connection that May and Henning have that they've always had, and it just explodes when they reunite. May honestly was the one that made this book for me and was the reason why I loved it so much. She's such a fierce heroine, and she will literally go to the ends of the earth to protect her loved ones. So I love the romance, I love the sense of family, the sense of found family here. It's such a good read, and I'm just so happy that Giana Darling is finally back. Another favorite of the year is a historical romance that I loved. This is An Earl to Remember by Stacey Reed. This had the best premise, and it lived up to all of my expectations for it. So this is a historical romance version of the movie Overboard, where the hero falls overboard his boat and gets amnesia from it, and then the heroine pretends to be his wife. It's such a ridiculous setup, but I loved it, and I especially love the fact that the heroine is a chef. She was the chef who was hired on the hero's yacht, which is the exact same yacht that he falls overboard from. So he wakes up in the heroine's hometown after she gets fired because of his mistress, and he has no idea who he is or where he is, and the heroine decides to pretend that she is his wife to sort of get revenge for her firing. But it was also like an impulsive thing that she just blurted out, so now they are pretend husband and wife, and he has no idea that it's all fake. She brings this Earl back to her family's farm. She has him working on the farm and also just getting to know her and her whole family, and honestly this part was really fun and sweet. I just love the way that Stacey Reid put this historical romance twist to Overboard, and it turned out so well. I also loved the heck out of the new TJ Klune in The Lives of Puppets. It's such a precious book with a precious story. I loved all these characters so much. I just love this sci-fi fantasy. It's not really like a romance, but there is a great queer romance here. It's this magical fantasy where robots are sentient. The main character is the last remaining human in this world of robots, and his adoptive father is also another robot. They live with two other robots, Nurse Rashid, who is a nurse robot, but kind of a killer nurse. She is hilarious and very, very sadistic. And then there's Rambo, who is basically a Roomba. Rambo is pure sunshine, and I adored him so much. TJ Klune really is the king of found family, because I mean, who would have expected a group of robots to become a family? But they really do. But then something changes when a strange robot shows up out of nowhere, and he kind of wrecks their lives unintentionally. Vic's adoptive father, he gets taken away by the evil robots, and now they all have to travel together to save him, and it's such a heartwarming read. It is so beautifully written. I was feeling so emotional for all of these robots. The ending had me almost tearing up. It's yet another incredible book from one of my all-time favorite authors. And then Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez also blew me away last year. It's a romance between two doctors who have the worst first impression of each other, but once they get over that little hiccup, they form this beautiful friendship at work. Like, they start to write each other letters. It becomes a bit of an epistolary romance. It's so cute. Like, they talk about the most random things. They get to know each other through these secret letters that they leave each other, and this is how they start their romance. And it also becomes a fake dating romance because Jacob, the hero, he needs a fake girlfriend to get his family off his back about his ex-girlfriend marrying his brother. The fake dating was so well written here. There's lots of pining and longing and angst on both their parts. They're both desperate for each other. They want each other so badly, but they don't want to mess anything up. And then there's all this outside drama going on that really made this a very well-rounded read. Like, there's an equal balance of the romance between Brianna and Jacob, and also everything going on outside of them. It's a very soft and sweet romance. I adored these two characters so much, and it's definitely the type of read that will leave you with all the warm and fuzzies. And then I have to include Manacled by Senlin Yu. This is a fanfic, fanfiction of Harry Potter and also The Handmaid's Tale, but it's mostly Harry Potter. But it's this dark Hermione romance, Draco and Hermione romance, and it absolutely blew me away, just like it did for everyone else. This is the fanfic that I've heard the most things about over the years, and I've always been curious about it, but I finally read it in 2023, and yes, I loved it so much. It was really my first fanfic that I ever read, my first Harry Potter fanfic, Hermione, and now that I've read it, I pretty much refuse to believe like the canon story anymore. Like, Manacled is my canon Harry Potter. Draco and Hermione absolutely belong with each other, or at least their manacled versions too. They were so perfect together. This romance is the definition of morality chain. Like, Draco pretty much only lives for Hermione. It is toxic and dark, but so good. Like, Draco's obsession with Hermione is next level. And the writing was incredible too. It was really, really easy to just be in this alternate Harry Potter world. So the story here takes place between the 6th and 7th book, and this is a world where Voldemort wins the war and Harry Potter dies. Dumbledore's army is pretty much in ruins, and Hermione has been captured by the Death Eaters. She is pretty much sold to Draco, who is like the top Death Eater, and she is forced to be his slave. Like I said, it is dark. It gets very dark and graphic, but nothing is really as it seems. And I just loved all the twists and turns. It took me on a whole journey. It's such an unforgettable story. I haven't stopped thinking about it since I read it months ago. There's so much to this fanfic, but it's absolutely worth the read. Another favorite is Glitch by Brianna Michaels. This was such a hot and fun read. I loved it. I love the romance. If you're in the mood for something short and steamy and smutty, this is gonna be perfect. The hero is utter perfection. Glitch is this tattooed giant of a man who is obsessed with the heroine. They are online gaming friends and they've never actually met in person yet, but they've sort of fallen for each other through all of their conversations online. They both crush on each other hard, but Glitch is just I loved his love for Ara. He adores everything about her. He knows that she is it for him, and when they finally meet, it is crazy hot. The chemistry is on fire here, and I'm never gonna not love a hero who pretty much worships the ground that his heroine walks on. So this was the perfect steamy read. I also loved Scarred Regrets by Adelaide Forrest. This is this dark mafia romance, and it's so angsty, so wonderful. Both the main characters grew up with lots of trauma in their childhood, and even though the hero now works in the mafia, he can't stand the touch of anyone. But when he does meet the heroine, it's so special and different between them. These two were made for each other, and yes, we do have another possessive, obsessive hero here, but that's kind of on par with Adelaide Forrest. Like, all of her heroes are like this, and it gets very, very hot here too. Like, even though the hero can't stand the touch of other people, he does make an exception for the heroine, and he also does at least love to be able to touch her. He's just all about her. Like, in the mafia, he's this powerful, dangerous, and violent man, but he has such a soft side for the heroine, especially when she goes through something terrible later on in the book. I just adore the romance here, and I love the way that these two were so different with each other compared to everyone else in their lives. I also have King of Pride by Anna Huang on my list. I adore Kai and Isabella. Kai is absolutely my favorite hero so far in the Kings of Sin series. I mean, I knew I was gonna love these characters and love their romance ever since they were introduced in the first book in King of Wrath. He's so perfect for me. Like, he's hot and rich, he wears glasses, he's a bit of a nerd, and he is a little stoic too. He is a reserved kind of hero, and Isabella, his heroine, is his complete opposite. She's loud and fun and everything that Kai isn't, but they're perfect together and they balance each other so well. From the moment that these two meet, there's this wonderful chemistry between them, but there is an element of forbiddenness because Isabella works at the exclusive club that Kai is a member of. So there's a no fraternization policy going on, but they still kind of secretly see each other. They're just so cute. Like, the story overall isn't anything too dramatic. We just have this really sweet romance between total opposites who probably shouldn't be together, but they are. Kai treats Isabella like a queen, and Isabella brings so much brightness into his life. So I can't not include them in my top 20. And then one of my new favorite marriage of convenience romances is The Favor by Suzanne Wright. I freaking loved this book. It's a marriage of convenience between a boss and his assistant. Dane is a bit of a jerk. He's like that classic ruthless alpha CEO hero, but Vienna is his perfect match, and she's able to stand up to him every single time. So the reason why they get married is because he gets his trust fund, but in order to access it, he needs to get married. And the only person that he trusts, the only woman that he knows that he wants as his wife, is Vienna. I loved his protectiveness over her. I loved his possessiveness. Vienna does have an ex that wants her back, but Dane is like, absolutely not. She's mine. She is my wife. And I love the steam here too. Suzanne Wright always writes some good spice. This book just hit the spot for me in every single way. I love these characters. I love their romance. All the chemistry is fantastic. So if you love Marriage of Convenience, you have to read The Favor. Also in my top 20 is Mixed Signals by B.K. Borison. This was small town romance perfection. I loved it. This is my favorite so far in the whole Love Light series. It's wholesome and sweet and so precious. Oh my gosh. I just loved it so much. Layla is the local bakery owner and Caleb is the guy who goes into the bakery every week because he has the biggest crush on her. Both of them are pretty unlucky in love. Like Layla goes on some terrible dates and Caleb is in unrequited love with her. So he does come up with a proposition for them. They will kind of fake date each other just to feel out why they're so bad at dating. It's not really fake dating for other people, but fake dating for themselves. So it's a little twist to the whole fake dating trope, but this is Caleb's opportunity to pretty much show Layla that he is meant for her. He tries so hard to make her fall in love with him, to show her that he is perfect for her, and he really is. Like, he is so good to her. They are two precious characters who need to be protected at all costs. So I love the romance, I love their fake dating, I love the small town feels. It was such a wonderful read. And then I have an author who pretty much consistently makes it into my best of the year lists because I just love every single one of them. It's Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. Catherine Center is always a winner for me, and Hello Stranger absolutely is another hit. This one I was really excited about because it had such an interesting premise. Like, the heroine gets into an accident and she loses the ability to recognize faces. She gets face blindness, which is a bit concerning because her job is literally a portrait artist, so now she can't make her art. There's also a love triangle going on here. Like, there's these two men. Obviously she can't recognize their faces, but we have this hot vet that the heroine takes her dog into. Oh my god, I also loved her love for her dog because it's so relatable. And then the other guy is one of her neighbors. She's actually been neighbors with him for a very long time, but this is like the first time she's ever really talked to him. You can pretty much guess what happens with this romance, but even though it was predictable, I was still into it. I was really looking forward to seeing how things would work out, and yeah, the romance is so adorable. But the heroine was definitely the shining star of the story for me. I loved her sense of humor. She was so relatable with all of her struggles. Like, even though it was face blindness and I don't have face blindness, I could still feel everything that she was going through. She also goes through a lot of family drama. Like, I was feeling so bad for her, and towards the end I even teared up a bit. But it was an incredible story. I always love Catherine Center's writing and the way she's able to tell her stories. It was heartwarming and emotional and everything that I expect in a Catherine Center book. This next favorite in my top 20 is a new fantasy romance. It's Fall of Ruin and Wrath by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I really did not expect to instantly fall in love with this book. It's like the start of a new series. It's the first in a duet, or what's supposed to be a duet, but I was instantly hooked as soon as I started reading. Like, I love the heroine. She has this really interesting power of intuition, which she uses to help her Baron, who she lives with. The Baron is not the hero. The hero is actually this dark prince who is on the brink of death when they first meet, and Lys saves Thorn's life. So there is a whole caretaker element, if you love the whole trope where one character takes care of the other one when they're sick, or in this case dying. Thorn shows up again later once he's all healed. He decides to stay at the place that Lys is living and kind of play around with her because he's so intrigued by her. Like, his being is a kind of being that doesn't understand feelings or emotions, but Lys is making him feel different things. It also does get hot for a JLA book. Like, this one is definitely a lot steamier than her usual stuff, but I just love the fact that she wrote this morally gray character in Thorn. He's dark and possessive and alpha, and I loved him. So this was a great first book. It was an instant hit for me, and I'm already dying to read the next book in the series. And then my second to last favorite in my top 20, again, it's not in any sort of order, but it is the second to last book that I'll be talking about in this video. I loved My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine. I really did not know what to expect when I started this one, but it was so adorable. It's this paranormal sort of rom-com. I know it's got mixed reviews, but it worked so well for me just because of how sweet it was. It's a vampire romance, if you couldn't tell, but even though I'd love a good, you know, hot alpha vampire in my romances, apparently I also really love the sweet, shy, adorable ones too. So this is about a human heroine who finds an absolute steal of a room in Chicago. It's only like $200 a month, and she thinks it's too good to be true, and that's because her roommate, the hero, is a vampire. She doesn't know that he's a vampire at first. Like, Frederick keeps weird hours, odd hours. She really only sees him at night. He's overly formal. He seems like he's from a different era, but he is a nice guy, so they become roomies. The truth does come out though, but these main characters are too cute together. Frederick especially, I just loved his quirkiness. So this book was just a very lovely, feel-good paranormal romance. I'm kind of sad more people don't love it, but I loved it, so I have to include it in my top 20. And then the final book, my final favorite romance of 2023, is The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy. I have been a huge fan of Elle Kennedy's for like, I want to say a decade now, whenever the deal came out basically. So it's been a long time, but my excitement for The Graham Effect was real because this is the second generation to the Off-Campus series. The heroine, Gigi, is Garrett and Hannah's daughter, and we do get a lot of good cameos of the original Off-Campus gang, but this new generation is also so wonderful too. I loved Gigi and Ryder so much here. Ryder is a total grump. He doesn't really get close to anyone because of his family trauma, but Gigi is really the only one that he gets soft for. These two and their relationship, it's full of fun and banter, lots of steam, but it's a lot of emotional feelings too. They're both hockey players. It's a college sports romance, and Gigi wants to make it to the Olympics. So they work out a deal with each other. Ryder will help Gigi get better at hockey, and Gigi will put in a good word with her father for Ryder. So they're together all the time now because of this deal, and that's how they start falling hard. It's got a very classic Elle Kennedy feel to it. Like, it's so charming and delightful. I was pretty much smiling the entire time I was reading this book. I'm just so glad that Elle Kennedy decided to write a second generation of the Off-Campus series. Like, it's a lot to live up to, but I would say Gigi and Ryder actually did it. And that's it for my absolute favorite reads of 2023. These were the 20 best romances that I read last year. Let me know your thoughts if you've read any of these books or if any of them are also in your best of the year list. And obviously, if you haven't read some of them yet, add them to your 2024 TBR. As always, links to all the books that I mentioned will be down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!